It's Tuesday night, it's 7 o'clock. It can mean only one thing. It's time to go old school on the channel that goes old school. My name's Andy Evans. Joining me this week, as I've got a guest. I've got someone. Like, you sat right there. You sat right
That's
there.
what way is it? That way. That way. Okay. Yeah, it's weird.
That way for you. Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
difficult to work out.
It's good old Lee Tyres. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Andy. Thank you very much for having me on this one. I'm excited to talk about some cool retro stuff. And this one, not quite as retro as normal, but probably has a bit of a retro tie that most people will work out quite easily. And it's good to be back online. Had a bit of a difficult few weeks, let's say, over the last sort of month or so. And just want to publicly, Andy, say a big thank you to you for sort of checking in with me regularly. Some people may know what I'm talking about, some people may not. But had some a dark couple of weeks not too long ago. And Andy's picked me up, dusted me off, and regularly checked in. So I really do appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much.
No, anytime, mate. You know that. That's what friends do, eh?
Absolutely.
And anyway, if anything had have happened, I could have just stuck you under the hood of a black Ford car.
Exactly. I'm sure there's a little button that I can press and a little microchip with my consciousness comes out and just shove me into a car. Why not? Yeah.
Exactly. All these years of knowledge, it can just go through. Now, if you haven't clicked what it is we're talking about tonight, it's very straightforward. It's the black car that Lee... Oh, that's cool. Oh, that is sweet. Look at that. That's got to be the episode clip. I need to get a screenshot of that.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't exactly what we're talking about tonight, but it will kind of, link to it.
So back in the early days of Retro Chat, we talked about the adventures of one Michael Knight, the legendary character played by the iconic, heroic man crush himself, David Hasselhoff, with the big hair, which I've had cut because normally my hair emulates Hasselhoff back in the...
Pretty similar, isn't it, normally? In a good way, not in a bad way. In a good way.
I was going to say, I can turn your mic off. It's fine. This time, we're going to go back to 2008. We're going to be talking about the reboot, what was meant to be the second coming of one of the most iconic franchises. Forget Team Knight Rider, forget Knight Rider 2000. This was Knight Rider, and we're going to touch on that in just a second. Now, Lee, before we do that, some eagle-eyed people are going to be seeing on screen that not only does it say your name in very cool Cobra Kai writing, but at the top right-hand corner, it also says Pirate Cast on Wednesdays.
It certainly does, and that's kind of true to an extent now. For many years, I've been doing. It started off initially as a podcast, and then radio, and we've evolved into a video format. Something that's very local and near and dear to my heart. The Pool Pirates Speedway team. Go there every Wednesday normally and watch the Pirates ride. And we do. One of my friends, Ben, who is I've been friends with since very small kids. We do a show there. Probably it says live on Wednesdays. There, that one says live on Wednesdays. Not 100% accurate, but normally about once a month, once every 5 weeks or so, we'll hop online and do a bit of a podcast about, or not podcast, a YouTube show talking about Speedway just for an hour, and it's fun. So that's what I'm doing sort of intermittently now.
But when you do go on to YouTube and you do it, is it live?
It is, yes, it is absolutely live. So,
and is it on a Wednesday night?
It is. So. Yeah, that's. I guess that's technically right.
I didn't have enough room to put once a month live on a Wednesday, but
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you can, absolutely, you can check it out. Let's just say Speedway fans are of a different kind of ilk than, they're not quite as tech savvy. So we've got piratecast.live, which will take you straight to the YouTube channel. And we've got Facebook and Twitter down there at the bottom of the screen below, Andy. Would appreciate a follow. Again, we talk about a lot of stuff that if you don't know about Speedway, probably won't mean anything to you, but any support is appreciated.
Do you know, I remember back in the day, and this is, years and years ago now when I lived back in Bournemouth, that occasionally I would come down trackside with you and Dudders and your dad to watch Speedway. Didn't understand the thing about what was happening. Still don't understand the thing about what's happening, but it is an absolute cracking watch and listen. So even if you're a Speedway no hoper like myself, you get something out of it. And the reason why is because of the guests that you have on. I mean, you've had some former world champions on Pirate Cast, you've had the managers, you've had some loyal fans, and also the interaction, because your chat room is buzzing by such a rabid community of Speedway fans, right?
Absolutely. And it is, my sort of most known genre, doing wrestling stuff. Everyone in the world has got a wrestling show and a wrestling podcast. There's maybe 2-3 Speedway shows in the whole of the genre. So we can dive in and all of a sudden, wow, this is massively cutting edge. Everyone loves it and thinks it's amazing, because, it is difficult to stand out in some of these more popular genres. But something like Speedway, which is still a bit of a, undiscovered secret in somewhat, or stuck in the 70s, one or the other. It's just not got the eye on it. It's, some of the viewer numbers on there have been absolutely fantastic, and almost beat out some of absolutely has beaten out several times over some of the the other products or projects that I've done over the last sort of 10-15 years, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Just check it out. Piratecast.live or the Piratecast on Facebook or Piratecast on Twitter. Now, we will be putting up my socials. However, Lee noticed a mistake and I'm too embarrassed to put it up.
No, put it up, and I'll point out the mistake. Go on.
Oh, yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So ours, if you want to join us, is Facebook at Retro Chat Podcast, Instagram at Retro Chat Podcast as well, Twitter at Retro Chat Pod, and you can join the conversation using the hashtag back in time. So join us on socials using the conversation hashtag back in time. I hadn't noticed that. Thank you for pointing it out. Now I can't not look at
it. I'm sorry about that. Really sorry about that.
Right, let's do it. Let's talk about Knight Rider, because it was really back in the mid-'80s when the original Knight Rider came out, featuring David Hasselhoff and featuring William Daniels' KITT.
Yeah,
that kind of spawned it off. And like we said, you didn't do that show with me. What was it about Knight Rider that point, and also going from that point, kept the fandom going for so long?
I think it was just cool. I mean, I think part of the thing was it was an awesome looking car. I mean, to go back to it, look at this car. It's amazing. You've got David Hasselhoff, who was the perfect guy. He had a bit of a mouth on him. He was cool, but he had and he interacted with the car as well. The car had a personality, of course. So it had everything. It had, more often than not, there was a bit of a fist fight. There was, there's all sorts of stuff that happens, big stunts, the car flying through the air, shooting things, and, lasers and all sorts, just everything a kid would want. And, it was, I remember having a little, probably similar size to this, maybe slightly bigger, remote control Knight Rider that I would sort of drive around the living room, and I absolutely loved it because you could actually get, you had a proper Knight Rider like was on TV, and they did keep it going for, you're probably better known than this, several seasons. They tried to sort of make it evolve a little bit with the Super Pursuit mode and all that kind of thing, which, it felt a little bit forced, to be honest, when you look back at it. But it did have a bit of longevity. It was always popular.
So it ran for 4 seasons in total.
Wow!
It had that feature length one, but that's not long, really, when you think about it. Because if you look at the Star Trek franchise, Enterprise, which was the most recent, the last of the Berman era, that only ran for 4 seasons, and it's still being talked about today, and it's still iconic. Knight Rider was 4 seasons.
Wow. I mean, that's, it feels like it was on forever, but only 4 seasons is massive. So, I think as a kid, time always goes really slowly. So, you watch it sort of every, I think, was it Saturday afternoons it was on?
It was Saturday afternoons on ITV. You used to have that Saturday block where it was The Fall Guy, followed by Knight Rider, followed by, later on, by Gladiators.
Yeah.
But at one point, you had The Fall Guy, you had WCW Worldwide, then you had Baywatch, then you had Knight Rider, the A-Team occasionally thrown in, then Gladiators. I mean, that was prime time.
So good. I mean, and again, Knight Rider, and another thing that you can kind of say, and we've spoken about some of the other sort of super vehicle type shows over the weeks here on Retro Chat, but this was kind of, I mean, you had the A-Team to an extent, but it wasn't really about a vehicle. Knight Rider was the first super vehicle show, which kind of spawned, things like Blue Thunder, like Airwolf, like Street Hawk, and then other evolutions of the Knight Rider franchise, which we're kind of leading on to.
Because wasn't it meant? Because they were all done by Universal, weren't they? Street Hawk. I mean, we've talked. I think we've mentioned this before. But weren't they all meant to form some part of a universe? Like back in the day, it was meant to be an extended.
So I'm not sure whether or not they ever tied it. I know it's one of the things, people of our age who remember all of those. They want that to happen. Absolutely. There's no reason why there shouldn't be some sort of crossover retro film with Knight Rider, Airwolf, Street Hawk, the A-Team, all those guys just sort of teaming up to do something. Of course, Knight Rider, we're going to be talking about its sort of most recent incarnation here. A-Team, they had the big movie, didn't they, that came out a few years back. Airwolf, Blue Thunder, they haven't done anything with really. Yeah, I mean, and Street Hawk, obviously, we talked about that. Go and check out the old episode on Retro Chat. They've not done a reboot of that. So, I mean, I think Knight Rider, arguably the most popular of them. But I think it's sort of printing money, isn't it? With the people that are now, watched it as a kid and are now our kind of age, who can go out and spend money at the movies and buy the merch and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be brilliant.
I was just going to say, our kind of age, what, old and over the hill.
Well, I'm not saying that, but but again, you could absolutely, tie it all together, and I'd be there opening night, absolutely, 100%.
Could you imagine that shot, that opening shot of the movie, when you've got the bike from Street Hawk, you've got KITT, and then you've got Airwolf at the top, and they're just kind of coming in from the distance, and you see the dust kind of settling and the music playing, and that remix of all three of the songs.
That would be great.
It'd be
just 80s on the screen, all in one go. You can't beat it.
Who needs the MCU, huh? Who needs
exactly. Yeah, who needs a multiverse when you could have this? Absolutely.
You could have the Riderverse.
yeah, absolutely. I suppose that would work. The Riderverse, yeah.
They're all riders.
I like it.
Knight Rider then spawned the TV movie, which was Knight Rider 2000, and that will be covered at some point on this show because it was terrible.
I didn't get through all of it. Do I remember it was in a red car and it went along the like a river at one point towards the end. I remember bits of it.
I think it was the Night Industries 3000 instead of the 2000 for KITT.
That's right. Yeah.
And considering that KITT was meant to be totally indestructible, the car had been destroyed.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Didn't they right at the beginning and it was all smashed up and
and he's put into an old Chevy Banger, and just there was a plot hole there. And then we're in 1994, I think it was, which is where it was set, 3 years after its release. And it looks like it's about 55 years in the future, so futuristic and all this type of thing. Terrible story.
So
but it was meant to have been the pilot. It was meant to have been a backdoor pilot for a new Knight Rider 2000 series.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I think, part of the reason why that sort of stuff failed. Number one, no David Hasselhoff, which we'll cover off in the 2008 version because they kind of deal with that quite nicely. Number two, you didn't have the cool black car. Everyone remembers the Black Knight Rider car. You talk about Knight Rider, this is what you think about. And again, it's the program that we're going to be talking about in a bit isn't exactly the same, but you've kind of got elements of it. It's almost nodding your cap to that old version. Whereas these other two shows, it was like, well, this isn't Knight Rider. Doesn't feel right. It's a different car. It's, Team Knight Rider and stuff like that. That it's just not the same.
No, Team Knight Rider with 5 vehicles and a whole fleet, one man can make a difference.
Yeah.
Didn't really work in that line. But let's shoot forward 2008 because originally it was going to be a made-for-TV movie. It was then served as the backdoor for the Knight Rider TV series. And luckily, and thank God, it makes no references to either Knight Rider 2000 or the Team Knight Rider series. But before we talk about production, let's just talk about the opening cast, because this featured a young actor called Justin Bruenig. Yeah. And Justin Bruenig started off in soaps.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, started off, I think it was on Days of Our Lives, which similarly David Hasselhoff started off in soaps.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, just try and think about that, some of the parallels. And again, there is a bit of a crossover in the pilot, of course, right at the end, which I know we'll get to.
Which we'll get to in a second. But the big iconic thing about Knight Rider is the voice of KITT. And we all remember Mr. Feeney. Sorry, William Daniels from Boy Meets World played the original KITT. This was voiced by Val Kilmer in what I didn't realize was actually one of his last main roles.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think because obviously you've got Maverick coming up, the Top Gun sequel, and I think he literally like plays a 30-second cameo in it just to say Iceman was in it. But yeah, he is essentially retired from acting at this point. And I mean, what do you think of Val Kilmer as KITT? I mean, it works for me. I think he plays it very straight, and he sounds passable. I think
he's got one of those voices that you kind of want to smack, because do you know what? It's very smug.
Yeah.
Very arrogant, but at the same point, you like it.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a little bit sarcastic, I think, in some of its tone. So I think it kind of covers that off nicely. Where he's almost, because at the beginning of the original Knight Rider, but when certainly in the pilot, when KITT was starting to get to know Michael Knight, there was a little bit of a sort of a butting of heads between the two, and KITT was a little bit arrogant. Oh, I can do this, or I can do this. Why didn't you let me do this, sort of thing? And Val Kilmer kind of plays that off quite nicely in the 2008 version. But again, it doesn't seem to die down. They don't have the same sort of bond. I know we're talking about a car and a guy here, but it doesn't seem to have the same sort of bond as the original KITT and Michael Knight had. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know, how really else to explain it. I mean, he does. I couldn't imagine anyone doing better. Put it that way. It'd be difficult to put someone else in the role.
No, but I think what was good about it is the fact that if you think about the relationship that Daniels and if you think about the relationship that Daniels and Hasselhoff had with that young Michael Knight and that young that KITT, this is exactly the same, and it's this new generation of Michael Knight, and he's playing the character differently, which means you get a different reaction to what's going on. It is just a tremendous pairing. Val Kilmer, I didn't know had throat cancer though. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yes, I did know about that. Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing at this stage he's in remission, because I haven't heard anything too much about it. But yeah, I know, I remember hearing that he was suffering from that back in the day.
Well, funnily enough, I've got an update.
Wow, good. Go on, fire away.
It was on the news the other day. The fact that he is in remission, but he also lost his voice, wasn't the same as what it was. So hence why he was doing vocal roles towards the end.
Yeah.
There's this new AI technology that they've created, which effectively will replicate his voice. So it's listening back to like movies or TV shows or anything that they've got audio of his voice.
Yeah.
And it's replicating it. And he can now talk exactly like he did back before he had the throat cancer.
How amazing is that? That's phenomenal, isn't it?
That's technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology is advancing every single day, and when you people like Val Kilmer, who are kind of synonymous with the 80s and 90s, I remember him in Willow. That's making its comeback to to Disney Plus. They're doing a series of that. He was in Top Gun. He's going to be in Maverick for a short time, Batman, of course. Played a role in. So yeah, certainly an iconic actor from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that Batman film.
It wasn't one of the best, but
it's better than George Clooney.
True. Yeah. They kind of got worse as they went on, didn't they?
Until they got to Christian. But anyway, that's a completely different story.
That's another episode.
So it was on September the 26th, 2007. The NBC announced it was going to create this 2-hour backdoor pilot to air during that year's season. Justin Bruning, as we said, played Mike Tracer. He was the estranged son of Michael Knight. And the other actors who appeared include Deanna Russo, I really enjoyed this. I will talk about her in a minute, but really enjoyed her. That was Tracer's former girlfriend and love interest, Sarah Grayman. Legendary actor Bruce Davison appeared as her father, the physicist Charles Grayman. and Wayne Kasserman as Dylan. David Hasselhoff did return, and we're going to talk about this more, I imagine, in a second. Is a cameo of Michael Knight, and we'll discuss that in a second. This time, instead of being a Pontiac Trans Am, KITT is actually a black 550 horsepower Ford Shelby GT500 KR Mustang.
Nice.
It was a beautiful car, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, almost. And again, I know we'll get on to some of the differences between the old KITT and the new KITT. It almost, the car looks so nice that it was almost sacrilege when it started to do its kind of transforming thing. I didn't enjoy that, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Now, the supervising producer, David Andron, wrote the script under executive producers Doug Liman and Dave Bartis. And it was actually because of that 2007 Michael Bay Transformers film that inspired the then president of entertainment at NBC, Ben Silverman, to revive Knight Rider. Now, did you know, we've talked about KITT, we talked about Val Kilmer, that originally it wasn't going to be Val Kilmer as the voice of KITT.
Oh, I didn't know that. Who did they have in line for it?
So if I said to you, Lego Batman.
Oh, what's the guy's name? The guy who plays Batman, right?
Will Arnett, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it, yeah.
So they announced Will Arnett as the voice for the new KITT Mustang and Sidney Poitier as FBI agent Carrie Rival. Now, 2 weeks before the TV film aired, 2 weeks, so production is finished, Will Arnett stepped down as the voice of KITT after General Motors informed him of a conflict of interest since he did voiceover works for GMC trucks.
Wow.
As a result, Val Kilmer then won the role. And to be honest, I am so relieved that Val Kilmer won it.
Yeah, I can't imagine Will Arnett doing it, to be honest. That's weird. I mean, again, you hear so many of these little stories about people who were, the classic Marty McFly Back to the Future was going to be Eric Stoltz. You can't imagine him in that role because it's so synonymous with Marty McFly. Not to this level, but I would, as I said earlier, I can't imagine anyone else doing the voice of KITT. Val Kilmer, I think, did a good job, and I couldn't pick anyone else out of thin air that could do as good a job as he did. Wasn't perfect, wasn't as good as the original, but did a good job.
The backdoor pilot, when it aired, I mean, in my opinion, it did a great job of introducing these new characters.
Yeah,
and even though you think about Knight Rider being about one man in his car, which was Michael Knight, even though they had the foundation, even though they had Deanna Russo's character, even though they had Bruce Davidson's character, it was very much still back to the original concept of one man in his car, going out to do the missions, do the story of the week. No, it wasn't complicated TV, was it?
No.
To watch Knight Rider 08.
No, I mean the format, once you got out of the pilot and you got into the regular weekly shows, it was carbon copy of Knight Rider. It was the one guy going around. I mean, in a lot of cases with the original Knight Rider, there were problems found Michael Knight and he just dealt with them. Whereas in this version, there tends to be, in a lot of cases, he's got a job to do and he has to go and do it. So that's slight change in it, but it's very much that kind of format, and everything comes good at the end. Act 3 is always the big action scene with KITT doing something amazing, and put that on the show reel. But yeah, it's not your sort of most sort of highbrow entertainment. It does what it says on the tin. It's a 45-minute action show.
It's a great way to spend 45 minutes, though, right?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, it was on Amazon Prime the other week.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
It was to buy. It's not free.
Oh, okay.
But the pilot episode was 99p.
Wow. And that's not bad, because it does introduce the characters very nicely.
Yeah, but that's in 1080 HD.
Wow. Okay.
So I did debate picking it up. I didn't, but I did debate picking it up. 99p for that. It's just.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I watched a lot of the show back in the day when it kind of first came out, and it was on NBC, wasn't it, over in the States. I don't know if it actually officially made it onto TV over here in 2008. I'm not sure if it had an official UK release, but you could certainly find. I mean, if you go around looking for it, you can find episodes, you can find clips of it out there. But and especially the theme tune is something we need to talk about, because
Yes.
it's almost like a rocked up version, I would say futuristic, but more in keeping with the present time version of the Knight Rider theme, which is good.
Yeah, no, it was cool. This name is released intro sequence. It was the original theme remix, and it's actually not available anywhere. You can't find it. Yeah.
Flippin' heck.
Yeah. There is one called the New Knight Rider song that they've been released on YouTube. That's out for 2 minutes 10. We'll put a link to that in the chat. But yeah, I'm trying to remember it so I could try and hum it, but you just got to go and listen to it. You can't.
Yeah, it's almost just like an enhanced version. It's the same tune as the original Knight Rider theme, but yeah, it has got like a rock element to it, and it's it's perfect for what it needs to do. It sets it up, and again, the original Knight Rider, that the car was very kind of sleek and polished, where it is the Mustang is a bit more gritty, and that's what the song was. It was a bit more of a gritty theme tune.
Now, you got to think that the series only lasted for 17 episodes.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
But they crammed a lot into those 17 episodes, because I'm just looking now at the voice cast, and KARR made an appearance.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was obviously Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, wasn't it, doing the KARR voice, as he did in the original, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, how cool was that link? I mean, even if we change gears and talk about Star Trek and Strange New Worlds and the amount of Easter eggs that are in that or in Star Trek Picard, that's one of the cool things about watching these shows and seeing the link backs to the original reboot. But that voice of Peter Cullen, I really wanted him to say, when they did the KARR versus KITT face-off, I really wanted the "one shall stand, one shall fall" line.
Would have been a lovely throwback to Transformers the movie. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he did. I mean, Peter Cullen's done so much voice acting work, but the two things. Obviously, Optimus Prime is the voice for Peter Cullen. That's what most people remember him for. But KARR is another one that he plays a very different style to it than Optimus Prime, obviously, and sometimes it will take you a minute or two to think, hang on, I know that voice. Who is that? And it'll take you a couple of minutes. Bloody hell, that's the guy that does Optimus Prime, but he's obviously really sort of a bit more growly with it and a lot deeper, and because he is a huge bad guy, being KARR.
On December the 3rd, 2008, NBC reduced the order from 22 to 17 episodes, so it was meant to have a full season and just didn't happen. The series finale aired on March the 4th, 2009, and was officially cancelled on May the 19th, 2009, which was such a shame. Because it had so much potential. I think the problem sometimes with networks is they get a bit trigger happy, and they look at it and go, a show's not performing in the ratings or it's going down. Don't look at the competition. We're just going to kill it. Where actually, you take a show like The Next Generation, for example, it took 3 years before it treaded in and it started getting the fan appreciation and settled down. And you got to think, with Knight Rider 08, it was a good show. It was well written. It was brilliantly acted. Cheesy, but brilliant.
But Knight Rider was cheesy. That's part of why it worked. It was you stick on an episode of Knight Rider back in the mid 80s, brand new episode of Knight Rider comes on. You, regardless of the storyline and sort of where it's going to take you, you know what you're going to get. There'll be some sort of plot. There's normally a girl involved. There'll be bad guys, and KITT will save the day at the end, and there'll be explosions and stuff. And then there's a nice cheesy scene at the end where everyone's happy, and that's what you get. And that was kind of the format with a lot of those shows back in the day. And this doesn't sway too far from that whole makeup. So you know what you're getting, and it's good. It's like kind of a callback to the original.
So why did it fail? Why do we think Knight Rider 08 failed?
I think, number one, I mean, again, if you liken it to Star Trek Next Generation was always going to be, well, who are these guys in the weird outfits? This guy's not got any hair. This is rubbish. This isn't Star Trek. And as you said, it was definitely the third season when they sort of changed the outfits a little bit, and they changed the cast back to Beverly Crusher came back in. People got used to the fact that if you want Star Trek, this is the Star Trek you're going to have. Get used to it. Get to know the characters. You had some good character development over the time. I think, but back in 87, 88, 89, when that was happening, it was a very different world. There wasn't so much, TV and entertainment coming at you from all directions. 2008, very, very different time. They gave it a season. It wasn't long enough for people to properly buy into it. There was only time for those sort of naysayers of, well, this isn't the Knight Rider I remember. Where's the Pontiac Firebird from the original? Where's David Hasselhoff? Why is he not driving it? There just wasn't enough time. Give it a couple more seasons, and people were like, actually, I know it's not the original Knight Rider, but this is pretty good. And it's a shame. It's just, I think, a casualty of how media or TV movies are absorbed today. There's a billion, when I finish this show, I could sit in front of my TV, turn it on, and I've got access to probably hundreds of thousands of movies, TV shows, and I can press a button and it's there. Star Trek: The Next Generation, you had to watch it every single week, and Knight Rider, you had to watch it every single week. And because there are so many other options, people looked at it initially, day one, rejected it. The network thought, no, this isn't catching on. See you later. We'll do something else.
So do you think now then, I mean, if we're in this era of streaming services, right? And it is kind of linked to Knight Rider and kind of not. You've got Paramount Plus that's launching over here next month. Can't wait. Yep. Strange New Worlds. Amazing. Check it out. Yep. You've got HBO Max. You've got Netflix. You've got Prime. You've got Disney Plus, which is the one that, you and I think live by.
Yeah.
Would it work now, bringing it back on the streaming service? Because we seem to be back in this era of reboot the classics. Battlestar's being rebooted for the 4th time.
Oh, is it? I didn't know about that. Okay.
Mr. Robot is doing it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it could. I mean, one of the, again, I don't want to make this a Star Trek show. Something like Star Trek Discovery season 1. People are like, well, this doesn't feel like Star Trek at all. I don't know what's happening. Don't like it. Get it off my screen. But again, they stuck with it for a couple of seasons, let it bed in. And, obviously they did a bit of a tease with the crossing over of the Enterprise crew and that sort of stuff. And finally, that's kind of had a bit of a bite of the cherry and fans are with it. So, maybe, I mean, would you maybe bring back, maybe do Knight Rider 2022 and still have the fact that Mike Tracer or Michael Knight Jr. is, he's back. He's been doing this job for the last 10 years. And now, here he is. This is where he is right now. Or how does that work?
I love that. Knight Rider 2022, I think it's fantastic. But imagine if they did the story similar to what you just said, but him and Deanna Russo character are now married. And they've had a couple of kids. The foundation's still going. All of this type of thing. But then they get kidnapped and held to ransom. And it's a one-off movie, and it's down to Mike Tracer and the Foundation and KITT to actually try and save them. And you've got this 2-hour movie, which is Knight Rider, but mixed in with typical action films. So the normal action fans would find it enjoyable. Knight Rider fans would do it. And then there's your backdoor pilot. Because, all of a sudden you've got this family again going on the Knight Rider route.
But again, I think what you'd have to do if you were going to do that, if it was going to catch on, maybe, Michael Knight Jr. and, Deanna Russo's character, that they're captured along with KITT. He's disabled somehow. He's still out there. You've got David Hasselhoff rocks up in this, and you maybe towards the end, you've got the two cars working together and doing stuff. You could bring back William Roberts. You could have a cloned AI or something.
Yeah.
William Roberts in the old car and Val Kilmer or another replacement in the new one. So many possibilities. And again, it's all about these 80s films. It's just like tugging on the heartstrings of people like us with these kind of reboots. It's what Cobra Kai is all about. Why do we like Cobra Kai? Because it reminds us of watching Karate Kid. It is a new story, but there's a billion different references to the old Karate Kid films all the way through it. Stranger Things, it makes us think about what it was like in the 80s. Another reason I think they did try and tie Knight Rider 2008 into the old Knight Rider saga by having Michael Knight appear, and that was almost like when you get to that scene in the pilot, check it out if you haven't seen it. You see Michael Knight at the end, and you think. You feel relaxed. Oh, this is Knight Rider now because you've got Michael Knight there, that you've got David Hasselhoff.
But were you not all the way through that? I know exactly what you're saying, but do you not all
Mm.
the way through that keep thinking, when's Michael Knight going to appear?
Yes,
When's Michael Knight
totally.
going to appear? When's
Yeah.
Michael Knight to appear? And I suppose the one good thing about it was they did that changing of the guard. They did that handover, that last scene in Act 3 of the movie.
Yep.
But maybe the problem was that if you didn't see the movie and the series comes to TV, you've got no handover.
Exactly. And again, I don't know if was the movie ever sort of added as a. Did they break it down and break it down to 2 episodes?
No, it was a standalone movie. It did feature on the home release, on the home video release when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, but it was just a standalone movie, and then it went into the TV movie. Now I don't know, obviously, because we don't know what the NBC schedules were at that point, whether or not there was a gap between the movie being released and the TV show. I would imagine there would be.
Yeah.
But you've got to think, I mean, 22 episodes, at least for the first season. How difficult would it have been to have had Hasselhoff as a recurring character playing the Devon Miles sort of role?
Yeah,
Being
that would have been
brought
great.
into the Foundation as a consultant.
Yeah, and when KITT is sort of in the base or whatever, you could have still had a bit of back and forth between Val Kilmer as KITT with and David Hasselhoff as the original Michael Knight. Oh, this reminds me of that time when we you tried to do that, and Mike Tracer, what? No, don't worry about it, just fine, you get on with it.
Or even had the classic Michael, and they both turn around and go, "Yes, KITT."
Yeah. It's kind of Spider-Man No Way Home scenario.
Exactly, but I just think if you've done that, you may have then have got a bit more. It may have got a bit more gravitas and a bit more buy-in by the fandom because of the fact that you are linking it back. And if you're
it's
just
a proper link,
a casual fan, you're not really gonna, or just a viewer who's flipping channels, not wanting to watch Monday Night Raw at that point.
Yeah.
When you put Knight Rider on, there you go. The one thing that you referenced earlier on, and we've kind of skipped over it, and I want to touch on it now, is the Transformers link. So KITT can transform.
And it's not, one of the things I like about it is, the fact that, when KITT transforms, one of the things I don't like about it is almost like the exploding effect, if you know what I mean. It's not a sort of like the body widens and then this bit flips up and then it turns and goes into that and whatever. It's not mechanical. It is a very CGI type transformation, and I think that doesn't help at all with it. I think that kind of makes it not as believable. And I mean, I know it's Knight Rider, it's a talking car, for God's sake, but
hey, do you know what you're talking about?
Yeah, but back in, and again, we talked about super pursuit mode and all of that in the original Knight Rider. At least you could see like the bonnet going forward and the spoiler going up and the fins coming out and that sort of stuff. This was very, very, very CGI heavy, and it would be nice to sort of put it into a bit of realism. So, okay, so it's turned into a truck. How does that happen? Does this bit go out and that goes up and it turns into the bonnet, or how does it do that? And I think that alienated me a little bit from it. It disconnected me a little bit, and thought, well, that's not KITT anymore. It's just a truck now. And it is a way, obviously, of Ford trying to get as much of their product on the show as possible, because it changes into a Ford E150, a Ford Flex Interceptor, a Mach 1 Mustang, the old school version of the Mustang. Let's just try and get all of these on there, and the Ford F-150 pickup truck as well. Any one of about 5 different Ford products. So that's clearly why they did it, but again, it just was a bit of a disconnect for me. I didn't like that so much.
No, and I can understand that. And I remember seeing it the first time, going, "What the hell is this? KITT doesn't do this." But the one thing, I mean, you talk about the CGI, and I get it, and I agree with you totally. I think the one thing that I did like on the CGI though was when they went into turbo boost, because when you were watching the old one with the Pontiac Trans Am, and he used to go turbo boost, he used to do that, backing away, and the music changed and the sound effects kicked in, and then you did it. And I had the remote control car like you, and how many times did you build a ramp and try and do turbo boost and send it over the duck pond and lose it? But that was a really cool, seeing the injectors coming in and all this type of thing and going into turbo boost and actually making it a massive part of what we all remember about KITT.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of felt like, you could see that what was happening, even in the intro sequences we talked about earlier. I think there's almost a sort of 3 or 4 second clip where you see him push his foot down on the accelerator, and you see like the petrol like flowing through the internal workings of the engine, and then like the fire comes out the back and off it goes. And that was good. That sort of makes you sort of realize it's still a car, and that's how it works. So that was good, definitely. But yeah, it was just the transformations that got me.
You wanted it to turn into a robot, didn't you?
Not necessarily a robot. I just wanted to see, okay, all right, it's a bit of a push. It turns into a truck. How does it turn into a truck? That's, if you're going with the sort of nanotech thing, which is essentially what it looked like, as though it was almost a nanotech thing. Okay, fine. We'll go with that. But if it had been a bit more of a proper transformation, a mechanical transformation, and turned into the truck, I would have got that. I'd been a bit more on board.
Yeah, I don't know, because now you've said it, I can completely see where you're coming from, because the transformation was always a bit of getting used to, but yeah, intriguing. Now, there has been longer talk, rumors that David Hasselhoff is bringing back Knight Rider for a movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the guy's 95 at the moment. The Queen's got her Jubilee. I think David Hasselhoff's got his Golden Jubilee too. No disrespect. If they do, I don't know why I was looking up to the sky then, like he's passed away, because he hasn't.
As far as we know.
As far as we know, touch wood, as of, we're meant to be live and something's happened with the live streaming. But anyway, we're going to go recording. Do they bring, if they do the movie, do they bring Mike Tracer back? And where does Mike Tracer stand in terms of the leading characters of the Knight Rider franchise? I
mean, I think if you're going to do it, you have to go full on retro, and it's got to be Michael Knight, as David Hasselhoff, Michael Knight, and it's got to be KITT. This version of KITT. Otherwise people will not accept it, especially if it is a big budget reboot 80s retro style movie. I'd like to see, I'd like them to keep it canon, and the fact that you have got Mike Tracer out there, and some kind of link into it, maybe also, or maybe having him almost as a side character, having a little chunk of the movie. And then that might sort of get a bit of resurgence in people going back and watching the 2008 version. Who knows? But I think it would. I think it would do well. But yeah, if they were going to properly go balls out, okay, we're back to the 80s. We're doing a Knight Rider film. You've got to have it 99% for David Hasselhoff and the original KITT. That's the only way it would work, I think.
I'm just trying to work out what the tagline would be: Knight Rider Attack of the Zimmer Frames or something. I mean.
He's old now, but he doesn't look as old as he is. That's a good thing.
No, he doesn't actually, and fair play to him. Now, what I can see happening, because the West End and Broadway are really kind of taking on a lot of pop culture now, and Back to the Future, the musical, has become one of the biggest musical performances globally.
Yeah.
Mix that in with Only Fools and Horses. Could we see a Knight Rider the musical?
How would you
go to see it?
I'd absolutely go and see it, but how would you? I mean, such a big part of Knight Rider was the effects and the stunts. I don't know how you'd do it unless you've got projections on the back screen or something like that. But that would be good. But again, so much of it happens out on the open road and in random bars everywhere. I think they'd struggle to do it.
It would be quite a difficult thing. Lee, thank you, mate. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great episode of Retro Chat. Really enjoyed talking about Knight Rider. Any last things about Knight Rider before we begin to wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, it's worthwhile watching. I mean, I've been more negative than I thought I would be about it, because I do actually enjoy it. I mean, as bad as I always had a bit of a resentment for the fact that Knight Rider 2000 came along and it was crap. Knight Rider 2010 came along and it was crap. Team Knight Rider came along and it was crap. And then this is kind of the closest you'll get to a continuation or a sequel thus far that you will get. And it is, if you stop comparing it to the original, it is a very good standalone series. I mean, they do make some tweaks with the cast as they move along during the series. Take it for what it is and enjoy it. And it is a pretty entertaining, kind of harks back to the 80s in its format and its style, and how the episode is made up. But you will enjoy it if you like the original Knight Rider. Don't be put off by it thinking it's just some crappy reboot. It is a worthwhile watch, so definitely check it out.
You do realize that Knight Rider 2010, they've actually now said, is not canon.
Good.
It was awful. There was
Yeah.
nothing Knight Rider about it. It was just the title.
Yeah. Yeah, no good at all. Yeah, I'm just eliminate those. You know, take go the original Knight Rider and then go straight into this. That's all you need.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. It's been far too long. Really enjoyed sitting here chatting Knight Rider with you for the last nearly an hour now. What's next? You know, what would you like to do next? Can you come back on? Are you up to coming back on?
I can come back on. I'm trying to, keep as much of my time free as possible. As some of you know out there, got some sort of major changing in circumstances. I'm officially allowed to talk about it now, being made redundant after 7 or so years from the job I'm in. So going to be taking a couple of months off over the summer to launch my own business. So that's going to take some hours. So I'm trying to sort of free up as much time as I can. So I'm not committing to any full-time podcast shows, anything like that. But, one-off appearances on stuff like this, I'm more than happy to do. There's bound to be some jewels out there that we haven't touched on yet that I would love to be a part of. So, hit me up as soon as you've got one and I'll be on board.
I think I've got an idea.
Okay.
I think I've really got an idea, one that you might enjoy. And I'm just kind of loading the graphic up. So we haven't talked about this. You don't know anything about this. But what about this?
Wow.
What about Ready to Rumble?
I watched that about 10 days ago. Watched it about 10 days ago with Riven, and he because I've got a Jimmy King t-shirt from Ready to Rumble, and so Daddy, that t-shirt you've got, that man on it, because I think he's seen me watch it before. That t-shirt with that man in it, can we watch that movie? And it's probably not. There's some elements in it that are a little bit too edgy for a 10-year-old, but we sat down and watched it, and it's one of those things that has aged better than when it originally aired. It's almost a so bad it's good. Take it for what it's worth. Watch that, and then watch the David Arquette documentary that came out last year or year before, whenever it was. Very, very good. And it's like wrestling. It's campy, it's fun, it doesn't make any sense, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, but that's what wrestling is. So you'll enjoy it if you haven't seen it. I'd love to do Ready to Rumble.
Great. Well, we'll put a date in the diary. May not be for a few weeks, but we'll put a date in the diary, and we'll do Ready to Rumble. Can't wait to do that one with you. And there is, like you said, so much we haven't touched on in retro. Whenever you want to come back on, mate, you are always more than welcome. You know that.
Would love to. Thank you very much.
Right, that is it this week for the Retro Chat. Just going to give a quick throw out to my socials. Retro Chat Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, Retro Chat Pod on Twitter. Join the conversation using the hashtag Back in Time. And while you're on socials, don't forget to check out Lee's. Go on.
There you go. So we're on Facebook / The Pirate Cast. Check us out on Twitter @PirateCast. And if you want to check out the YouTube channel and give us a quick like and a subscribe over there, that would be great at www.piratecast.live. And that will take you straight to the YouTube channel. And you can see the sort of thing that we do. So there you go.
Absolutely. And that, of course, is for Pirate Cast, which is live on a Wednesday, maybe once a month.
Exactly.
Not every week.
Every 4 or 5 weeks, here's Mini Lee making an appearance.
Lee. Hello, Mini Lee.
There he is, right at the end of the show. And he's stolen the Knight Rider toy. Awesome.
You're teaching him well.
Nice, there we go. I'm going to have to go and retrieve that because it's not a toy, obviously. I never played with it.
It's a collect.
It's a collectible, yeah.
Is that what you do with the Back to the Future cars? Are they still just collectibles and not?
They are. I mean, they're on the top shelf. You can't quite see them. They're up there. They are collectibles. I got some micro machines the other day. 3 micro machines of the 1, 2, and 3 cars.
Oh wow!
Very good. Yes,
Where the
they're very good.
Did you find them from?
Tesco's. They're really, really nice. Yeah, if I could go away for 10 minutes and get some, but I'm not gonna get them now. No. But maybe another time.
Well, we'll have to do something and shove it up on socials. Lee's micro machines.
Love it.
I don't know if they've got legs in that or not, but that's it for us for this week. We'll be back with more Retro Chat coming up. I'm not sure what the next topic's going to be, in all fairness. Don't have a clue. I'm thinking a bit Star Trek. We haven't done Star Trek for at least 2 weeks. So maybe we'll go... In fact, let's do it. We're going to go to Enterprise and talk about a series that recently celebrated the milestone anniversary. So we're going to talk about Star Trek Enterprise, the rise and fall, and maybe a bit of Broken Bow leading into that. the pilot episode. But that's it for me. I will see you next week. Lee, pleasure as always, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Stay with me for just a second. We'll be back with more Retro Chat next week. Until then, ta-ta.